Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation, and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten all of you about the impact of COVID-19. And today we are having a very, very interesting subject. But before that, I would like to appeal all of you to help Kerala because the Red Cross Society of Kerala has appealed and informed that they need the following supplies to help the victims of the air crash, landslide, and floods in Kerala. They require baby food, biscuits, bed sheets, woolen sheets, toothpaste and brush, sanitary napkins, masks, sanitizers. This appeal from Red Cross Kerala has been sent by the chairperson, Justice Kumari A. Lakshmi Kutti, and Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, former Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala. And if you want to contact them on phone, you please contact on this number 920 741 7929. I repeat, 920 741 7929. Now we would like to go on our subject, and that is the COVID-19 impact on sports. Sports, sports do not build character, they reveal it. Sports is all forms of usually competitive physical activity which through casual or organized participation aim to use, maintain or improve physical ability and skills while providing entertainment to participants and in some cases spectators. Sports can bring positive results to one's physical health. Hundreds of sports exist, from those between single contestants though to those with hundreds of simultaneous participants, either in teams or competing as individuals. The first recorded sport in history was spear throwing, which arose in 70,000 BC out of a need for ancient hunters to practice their skills. Running is the second oldest sports activity in the world. It is also the first Olympic sport to have a written record of its event dating back to 776 BC. The history of sports in India dates back to the Vedic era. Games like chess and snakes and ladder originated from the ancient Indian games Chaturanga and Gyan Chopad respectively. During the rule of the Mughal Empire, a form of wrestling known as Pehlwani developed by combining native Malla Yudh with influences for Persian Varjish-e Bastani. Snooker originated in the late 19th century among British Army officers stationed in India. Modern polo originated in British India in the 19th century from Manipur, where the game was known as Pullu. The name polo is the anglicized version of the latter. The first polo club was established in Silchar, Assam in 1833. The oldest polo club still in existence is the Calcutta Polo Club, which was established in 1862. The Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna is the India's highest award for achievements in sports, while the Dronacharya Award is awarded for excellence in coaching. Sport in India refers to the large variety of games played in India, ranging from tribal games to more mainstream sports such as hockey, cricket, badminton, and tennis. Sport is a major contributor to the economic and social development. The global value of the sports industry is estimated at US dollar 756 billion annually. Since its onset, the COVID-19 pandemic has spread to almost all countries of the world. All sports events worldwide, including the Olympics and Paralympics, the T20 Cricket World Cup, Wimbledon, etc., have been postponed or cancelled for the first time in the history of the modern sport and will now be held in 2021. In the face of COVID-19, many millions of jobs are therefore at risk globally, not only for sports professionals, but also for those in related retail and sporting services. good players inspire themselves, great players inspire others. And today, we have great players with us. I am sure that today's program will inspire all of us. And I would like to start my program that is the COVID-19 impact on sports. My first guest is Mr. Enrico Peperno, who is by everybody calls him Rico, is the former Indian tennis champion. Mr. Rico had an illustrious playing career which began as a 17-year-old when he won the gold medal at the Asian Junior Championships in Bangkok, Thailand. He went on to win a silver medal at the 1982 Asian Games held at New Delhi. He was national hard court champion on 6 occasions and was runner-up at the national grass court championships a record 7 times. He was national double champion on 8 occasions and was ranked number one in India on the AITA ranking list. He retired in 1990 and took up the reins of guiding Lender Pace for 2 years. During this period, Lender became the number one junior tennis player in the world and the winner of the US Open junior single title. Mr. Enrico Peperno was then selected as the coach of India's Davis Cup team and held that position for 10 consecutive years, spanning 27 consecutive Davis Cup ties. Indian tennis touched digi heights during this period, reaching the semi-finals of the World Group in 1993 and had spectacular wins over France, Netherlands, Great Britain, Switzerland, and Chile. In 1997, Mr. Mahesh Bhupati came calling and Enrico Peperno became Mahesh's traveling coach, a job that he held for 8 years. During this period, the great combination of Mr. Pez and Mr. Bhupati, nicknamed the Indian Express, dominated the world doubles in international tennis, reaching the finals of all four Grand Slams in 1999. Mr. Enrico Peperno then became India's Fed Cup captain in 2001 and helped guide Indian women's tennis for 13 consecutive years with great success. He was also the coach of Indian women's team at 3 Asian Games at 2002, 2006, and 2010. He also coached the women's team at the Commonwealth Games at New Delhi in 2010. He received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the All India Tennis Association and was also honored by the Chief Minister of West Bengal with the Guru Kriya Award in 2015. He is the president of prestigious Calcutta South Club and steward of the Royal Calcutta Turf Club. Welcome, Mr. Rico, on our show. Mr. Rico, today's our topic is COVID-19 impact on sports. So we would like to know your views on COVID-19 impact on sports. Mr. Enrico Peperno, please.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Well, I can only speak about the impact of COVID-19 on sport with relation to the fact that I run a couple of tennis programs in Calcutta at my tennis academy, and also Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh, who's a co-panelist, and myself run a sports management diploma course at the SDMIMD College in Mysore. Both have been tremendously impacted. What I mean by this is towards the end of March, when COVID-19 did come about and India went into lockdown, people didn't realize the sort of impact that this would have in the long term. It's been 5 months now. The academies still have not opened. The children's who I speak to quite regularly are absolutely not confident to actually come out and start playing sport at the moment, which is extremely disappointing. But I understand from the parents' point of view how difficult that would be. And I guess running a sports management program through the year 2021 will make no sense for only one reason, that no sports leagues, nothing like that is happening in the country. So finding internships for our students would be extremely difficult. So these are the two major impacts that I'm facing on a personal level with regards to the pandemic. On the international tennis front, we first woke up in early April to find that the French Open had been pushed back to September. Wimbledon had cancelled 2021. So it was a real wake up call for the tennis fraternity that not much is going to take place through this year. So with that in mind, I guess players started, getting back to their countries where they belong, and basically trying to practice and using this time to do a lot of physical fitness training and basically at home, not being able to get out and play. And I was happy to see then the announcement that the US Open was going to be held on, I think, from the 31st of August. I think that's a good way of trying to bring tennis back. It's not going to be very easy because tennis is not like soccer or horse racing, but these are the two sports that are really being or having a lot of participation without any spectators. Because tennis is a very more sort of global sport in the what I mean by a lot of players from different countries will be assembling in one spot, and to actually put a Grand Slam together at this stage would be an extremely difficult proposition. So what the U.S. Open has done is it's basically cut down the doubles draw. They're not having mixed doubles. So that takes a care of a few players from coming into New York at the time, and they're trying this as an experiment. So let's see how it works. The whole tennis fraternity is watching. We're just hoping that it's successful. No cases of COVID come out of it. So then this experiment can continue to other tennis tournaments. But at the moment, very, very quiet. It's been very, very disappointing. And I feel very, very sad for the sportsmen on the verge of the players, coaches, the fitness trainers, the stringers, the ball boys, everyone connected with our sport who are not actually earning anything right now. So it's been a very, very tough few months. It's 5 or 6 months already gone. We don't know when the light will come at the end of the tunnel. I can't see that happening in a hurry. We hope the vaccine comes out as soon as possible, and that will give some sort of hope to the sporting fraternity that it's about time that they came out and start doing what they enjoy the most. It's been a huge financial impact, like you said, like you spoke, 750 billion dollar industry, where really only 3 or 4 sports are playing behind closed doors at the moment. With the Olympics hopefully going to be held next year, but that's also looking a little dicey right now because really there's been absolutely no opportunity for the players to participate, to prepare. And like I said, end of the day, coming back and playing a tournament right off without any sort of preparation is always difficult. And I wonder how the players at the US Open will be able to cope with a 5 set match without any sort of preparations for tournaments before to get their fitness levels up. Because, at the end of the day, competition, it's all about competition. As much as you may practice, as much as you may say, I'm training, actually getting out there and playing competition is what really matters. So let's hope no injuries happen. The players are able to take a very solid Grand Slam. If that happens, then I guess more tournaments will be able to open up worldwide. So that's my views on how COVID stands at the moment. Just keep our fingers crossed that Mr. Poonawalla and the Serum Institute produce a vaccine quick enough to get us all back to what we all love doing so much.
Thank you, Mr. Peperno, for giving your views. And according to him, his own academy is closed for last almost 5 months, and the children are not ready to come. And he says that obviously because of the health issues, the families or the parents are not allowing them. But he said this is a very sad for the sports because if there will be no sports activity, then what is going to be the future? He also mentioned that the French Open has been pushed back, the Wimbledon has been cancelled, but there is a hope, and that is the US Opens, which is now slated for 31st of August. And he mentioned that although they have the US Open, they are not going to have the mixed doubles and the doubles, but uh, he's he's hoping that everything should go fine because after all the players are going to play 5 set match, and it is not easy because of without training, without practice for last so many months, everybody is locked up in their homes. So he says that we will see how it happens, and it should be injury free or any other disease free. He hoped that the Serum Institute of Pune should come out with a vaccine soon, so at least the sports will start as early as possible. Thank you, Mr. Peperno, for giving your views about the COVID-19 impact on sports. Now, our next guest is Mr. Surendra Khanna. Mr. Surendra Khanna is the former Indian cricket player. When the selectors decided to drop Mr. Syed Kirmani for the tour of England in 1979, Mr. Khanna was given the big break. He was the designated wicketkeeper for India in the 1979 World Cup. He played in all the three World Cup games. He was in the Indian team for the 1984 Asia Cup held at Sharjah. He scored half centuries in low scoring encounters against Sri Lanka and Pakistan. India won the tournament, and Mr. Surendra Khanna was named man of the series. He was a member of the Indian team that went to Pakistan in October the same year. That was his last international tournament. Between 91 and 92, he was the professional for Stewart's Melville Royal High Seas in Edinburgh. During the 1991 session, he scored 1098 runs at an average of 91.5. Nowadays, he is a cricketing expert of All India Radio during the matches. Welcome, Mr. Khanna, on our show. Mr. Khanna, please unmute. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute. Uh, please unmute. You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Khanna. Yeah, now it is fine.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah,
I'm great,
yeah,
Enrico.
yeah.
There is
morning.
players that supposed to be
Yeah,
more
now,
educated.
one moment, Mr. Khanna. You have heard what Mr. Rico has mentioned. And according to him, it's not a good thing for the sports because all the players or the students, they are sitting at home. They are not getting the proper training, exercise. They are no chance to play. And if this is going to happen, then what will be the future? And according to him, even the Olympics which are now slated for 2021 is again doubtful. Now, you are such a renowned cricketer of your yesteryears, and even now you are giving your expert opinions on All India Radio. Now, we would like to know from you the COVID-19 impact on sports. Mr. Surendra Khanna, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. And it was great to hear Rico Peperno's views. And I've followed Rico when he was playing, when he was a coach. We were associated. I was head of sports in Steel Authority. We sponsored Indian Davis Cup team for good 19 years. And I've seen it from close quarters, being a cricketer. I love tennis. I love other sports, football, athletics, hockey. Well, the entire world was shocked by this pandemic, this corona darling, as I call it, and the impact of COVID-19 on sports, physical activity, and well-being, and its effects on social development. Well, sport is one area where we say as a player, we are affected, or if I'm running an academy, I'm affected. But if you see on the overall scenario, 756 billion, you just mentioned the figure, yearly sports bring in, and it contributes about 3 to 5% of the GDP of our country. So it's not only that we are sitting at home as sportsmen, international sportsmen, he needs to go out and play, for which he has worked like an Olympian. You work for 4 years, and then when it comes close to the Olympics, you get corona, this pandemic. You're sitting at home, and the federations, all the ancillaries which are attached to the players, it is the travel sector, it is the catering sector, it is the trainers, it is your transport, it is civil aviation. All these sectors are associated with sports. Not only a professional is losing out on his sponsorships because he'll find it very hard to sit at home and train if you don't play. You're simply training, you have a treadmill at home, you have a small gym at home, but you need to compete as well. It's like for youngsters now, we have the Saturday exam. You study for 5 days, 6th day you have the test. Same is for the sportsman of any game, that you practice and then you have the tournament where you need to excel, which unfortunately is not happening. The major events, T20 World Cup, T20 Women World Cup, the World Cup of soccer, Wimbledon, US Open is trying to happen. I'm on the governing council at the moment, and my other commitments as a commentator and others are restricted. But as a special program which you are having on pandemic, I'm participating because conflict of interest is another great thing which has come into cricket. It hampers us. If I'm on the IPL governing council of BCCI, I can't be a commentator, but I can participate and give my views in a show like this. It was very heartening and enlightening to hear from Peperno, who is into tennis for the last 40, 45, 50 years. And he not only eats it, breathes it, he dreams it as well. He has produced some outstanding players. So is every coach in every discipline, administrators, the schools, the colleges, the universities, the offices, all have been shocked all over the world. And the amount of people who are dying every day, leave aside the positive and negative, the amount of people who have lost their lives, my heartfelt condolences to them. And like you said in Kerala, whatever we can do, we must. I had made a few notes. I mean, reading from somebody's writing is not very good. But then sometimes we sportsmen, we lost out on studying regularly in our college because we were practicing 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours on the ground. So I'll say for regular sportsmen, like they are only exercising without equipment and in a very limited space possible at home. So for 5 months, I have not gone out of the house, but I'm not actively playing. I miss out on going to the nets and talk to the youngsters, coach them. We can't do that. And we don't know till when. We are hoping Poonawalla, Oxford, or somebody, the entire world is trying to bring out a vaccine. Even if the vaccine comes, my take, I studied science at school level, is that we have to live with it. Like we are living with so many other ailments, there is no medicine for cancer, for diabetes. I think there are more people dying from that. We forget it. We have to live with it. We have to keep the social distancing. We have to use the sanitizers. We have to wear the mask when we go out. We have to do it religiously. Japanese have been doing this for a long, long time. They don't shake hands. They bow down and greet the visitor. It's their tradition. The Jainis of India, the Jains all over the world, they put that thing on their face and they have been doing it for ages. So we need to learn that as well and practice that religiously. And also tell our mates, whosoever comes or whosoever is listening to us, that they contribute by being safe. If I'm safe, my family is safe, my friends are safe. I'm not, passing on this virus to others. So we need to live with it. And I can only hope. I'm a pessimist. I'm an optimist. I always feel and think positively that in life, you get these challenges, I call them. I don't call them problems, challenges. Like we saw the 65 war, the 71, and many others, the Kargil, and the other major events which have happened in our life, maybe not in Delhi, but in Bhuj or somewhere in the country, we have seen, and few days back, the air crash. So many things keep happening. We need to be together and as one country, one nation, and help each other. And hopefully, the Lord who has sent this Corona darling will make some arrangements for all of us to survive this. And I hope and pray the sporting industry flourishes because इससे ज़्यादा नुकसान नहीं हो सकता. When you go to zero, you're going to come to 100. So we are at the zero or maybe minus at the moment. But once COVID stops, it allows us to come to the nets. It allows us, we are trying to make IPL happen in Dubai, Sharjah, and Abu Dhabi. So entire world in cricket. England gave us the opportunity. They hosted West Indies. very successfully. Now they are hosting Pakistan. That has given courage to other sports as well. And the NBA has started in America, and the ice hockey as well. So many events are now starting to happen. And I wish all of them luck. And also, you all who are participating today, thank you very much once again. I sincerely hope it goes away soon and we have the vaccine and other medicine to cope up with it.
Thank you, Mr. Surendra Khanna, for giving your views about the COVID-19 impact on Indian and sports. And you have mentioned very clearly that this is such a huge industry with $756 billion industry, and it is a great loss internationally if the sports will not be there. And you have also mentioned that although you are on the governing body of IPL, but it's not a conflict of interest to come and speak on this forum, because this forum you are giving your views which has nothing to do with your because you are on the governing body, and you are saying that nowadays for last 5 months you are not going out to the nets, because although you are not playing but you are teaching, you are coaching the youngsters, but right now you are also logged in. And you said that it is not possible only to have the with the treadmill or some small gym to get, because until unless you will not get the practice properly, you cannot compete. But you are hopeful, like, because you said that IPL is taking place in Middle East, the Dubai and Sharjah and Abu Dhabi. So similarly, the England is hosting the series now, future in Pakistan very soon in England. So he says now they are opening, so we will hope that the future is bright if once it will start, because right now we are not even zero, we are minus. Then definitely once will start, it will go up. And you have also mentioned very clearly, when there is such type of committees, we have to be united. We are one nation. And you mentioned about the Kerala tragedy of the air crash, and you said yes, everyone should come forward to help, because after all it's a national tragedy. And you are very hopeful that everything will be okay soon. People are going for the vaccine, but you say even if we are not getting, even the vaccine is ready, we have to live with the corona like we are living with all other diseases, where so many people are dying every day or every year. Though then we can live, but we have to keep the social distancing and hand sanitation, etc., wearing the mask. You have even given the example of Jains, that they are always wearing the mask. Many of the Jains, one of the sect of the Jains, always wear the mask, and the Japanese who always bow down instead of shaking hands. Thank you, Mr. Khanna, for giving your views about the COVID-19 impact on sports. Now I would like to go to our next guest. He is Mr. Vijay Lancy. Mr. Lancy is the former Indian badminton champion. Currently, he is the Masters World Champion. He is an international badminton player, having represented the country in Thomas Cup and World Championships. He is the founder and CEO of the Badminton Professionals. He is an alumnus of the prestigious IIM Calcutta and has held senior positions in Reliance Industries and Johnson and Johnson. He has a rich experience in sports management, being the vice president of XLRH Sports Arena and CEO of Prakash Padukan Sports Management. Welcome, Mr. Lancy, on our show. Mr. Lancy, you have heard what Mr. Rico and what Mr. Surendra Khanna has said. Both the views are very common. They said that they are not happy because of the lockdown, although they are helpless because it's a phenomena which is beyond their control. But they says what will be the future if the students or the youngsters are not coming out for the practice or for playing or even for the exercising. Now, although they are very positive, they feel that like the this US Open is going to take place, IPL is taking place, England is also hosting the series. So they are hopeful that soon we will have the sports activities going to start, because it is such a big industry, and it is not only the professionals. There are so many associate industries according to them, like travel industry, like catering, the hotel, many industries which are associated with the sports fraternity are affected. So according to them, we should try to get the vaccine as early as possible and try to come on the field as early as possible. Now, we would like to know COVID-19 impact on sports. Mr. Vijay Lancy, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Lal. And it's a privilege to be a part of this illustrious group. Of course, Mr. Surinder, I have not met him personally, but we've heard so many exploits about him. You know, and of course, Enrico I've seen in Calcutta, Arijit sir. So firstly, thanks for having me here. As we are discussing impact of COVID on sports, as Surinder sir said, our heart goes out to people who have not survived this pandemic. In a way, we are blessed that we are even discussing the repercussions of it. But some for some people it has proved to be fatal, and really it's a sad that there are so many casualties happened in the last couple of months. The cases are still increasing, but however, life has to go on. And I will give my perspective of what the badminton industry is going through. Especially we are running academies, more so in Bangalore and other cities also, and I'm sure that can be extrapolated to other academies and also other sports. So in badminton, firstly, see, we have a segment which is a beginner segment, children from the age of 6 to 16. For them, playing is not a must. They've obviously played because a parent has told them to. They must have seen maybe a Saina or a Sindhu, or a Shrikant playing on TV and have taken up to the sport. But having said that, there is no urgency for them to play badminton, right? And which is understood. Second segment is a recreational segment. There are, so suppose in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, and many other cities, even Delhi, there is so much of badminton infrastructure. A lot of adults playing, a lot of college students playing, not necessarily coaching, but just playing for health and fitness. And badminton emerged as a good sport, as an alternative to fitness. Although fitness gym has so many benefits, but playing a sport is fun. So which is why people play. So these two segments, have are going to miss out. There is no absolute need for them to play badminton. But I mean, I'm not an expert on social causes, but I'm sure there are a lot of side effects, right? You have obesity or whatnot, sleep disorders, more screen time. A lot of people not knowing what to do. So it impacts our relationships and whatnot, right? There is a huge social impact of not getting involved in sport or broadly in physical fitness or health. Of course, the third segment is the professionals, the players who are really training for tournaments. Already they have decided to be badminton players. They've invested a lot of time on it. So obviously they have an urgent need of starting the sport. And even among the professional players, you have some people at the very top. People training for the Olympics. So at least in the badminton calendar, in September we had a China Open, we had a Korean Open which is cancelled. In October, there is a French Open and a Danish Open, which is not yet cancelled. But very difficult, as Rico said, for tournaments, especially like tennis or badminton. You have about 500 to 600 players, and maybe 50, 60 odd countries participation. It's very very difficult, and I mean actually a nightmare, a logistical nightmare in these times. Maybe as apart to team sports like football or cricket, where number of players are limited. So of course the professional players stand to lose because if somebody is aiming for a tournament in even November or December, you have someone in some other part of the country who is training hard, but you cannot. So they stand to lose. Especially if the competition is training hard for it. So these are the segments I think which are affected. One major stakeholders is also employees. Our coaches. So now, for example, they have invested so much time in the sport. And pretty much that's the only skill they have. So today, when coaching has stopped, these guys, just no salaries, doing nothing. So that is one more thing. Now, of course, when you talk of broadcasting, I'm assuming broadcasting or events work on eyeballs, and so there are no fans in the stadium, no events telecasted, so no fans. So there are, I think these challenges have been spoken, by the people before me. So what are we to do? So as there are some things which as an individual or as a responsible person in the sports industry I could do. Some things are not in my control, right? So what we did was, I remember in the month of March, in not in Bangalore, I think in India, March 23rd, the lockdown was announced, and a lot of parents called me, said, April, May, summer camp, children were so keen, what could we do? and we really didn't know what to do, because badminton is so much of a sport where you have to go on the court and play. So just as an alternative, we started online fitness, which is not so difficult to do. We did online badminton coaching. Now that's very very tough to sound, but for the absolute beginners, people who are just holding a racket and trying to contact a shuttle, we thought at least let's do something for these children. So in our very own way, it's not a replacement to actual sport on the court. We started doing online whatever we could, and the important thing for us was to engage our students or players during this time, because strictly, even if you see from a perspective of sport, if we had 100 people playing after the pandemic is over, we want all of them to come back. So I think, of course, during the pandemic you cannot play, but hopefully after the pandemic is over, you would want most of these people to come back. And we just thought of how we would engage them. So some activities where we try and do as much online as we can. It's not a replacement surely, but things which we are doing now. Of course, today in Bangalore, sports stadiums have started. We have some of our international national players in the Karnataka Badminton Association. We have 10 courts there. So we started from the month of June in a very small way. Now, of course, nobody can be forced to start playing. I think the decision should be left to parents to decide, whether the children should come and play, and more so the the professionals. However, having said that, we have to learn to live with this, right? We ourselves go to the stadiums. There is uh, at a particular time there are only so many players. We ensure that how much ever possible social distancing. We do not do doubles practice now. We do only singles practice. So there are a lot of measures which we take to ensure that if a child or a parent decides to come to play today, we will take all the precautions. So I think this is the way for the next 3-4 months. This is what is going to happen, and hopefully, when there is a cure found, things will get back into shape. A tough time for all of us, for us, especially for our coaches, for employees, for customers, for students. I think, but as any a strong sports person is, we just have to come out of the situation. We have to hang on and just ensure that when things get back to normal, we really get back all of these guys into the fold. Yeah, so that's my view on the current situation.
Thank you, Mr. Lancy, for giving your views. And as you have mentioned that there are about the badminton, because he is a national champion, he was a national champion. He said that the badminton, three types of people are playing. One is the youngsters, students, just a beginners. For them, it is not a game which is interesting. Means they are very much interested because by seeing the Saina Nehwal or the Sandhu, they are motivated, or their parents are sending, but this class is not coming right now to for the practice even. And the second class is the for the recreation or for the health purposes, which are even the adults, senior persons. They are playing because they feel that that is more fun than to go to gym, and they are that is also the giving that taking the benefit of the health in that. But the third thing, which is the professionals who are making themselves fit for the competitions, which according to him, the China or the Koreans and all those competitions which are going to take place in September, October, and it's not sure whether they are going to take place or not. So very much uncertainty. And he says because of this, all the coaching classes or the coaches are not doing anything, and that is a financial burden to all the coaches because there is no salary because nobody is coming to the institute. So that is also a big burden for the institute as well as those who are teaching fraternity. But he hopes that soon people will come because the Karnataka government has already started the stadiums. They have started with a very limited way, no on doubles, only the singles with full security measures, hand sanitization, etc., etc. And he says that now few people have started coming, but not in the way which they were expecting. And he hopes that 3-4 months it will take more when the things will be regular. Thank you, Mr. Lancy, for giving your frank views about the situation today. Now, our next guest is Mr. Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh. Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh is the former Ranji Trophy cricketer, served in the Indian Air Force for 24 years. He commanded 4 Air Force units, holding sensitive appointments at the top of the line fighter bases close to the Indian border, both in the northeast and in the western desert. He is qualified coach from the BCCI National Cricket Academy and a BCCI match referee for domestic matches. He is former secretary, Air Force Sports Board. He is he was closely associated with the conduct of elite sports events like the Military World Games and Commonwealth Games as chief of mission of Indian Armed Forces sports contingents at Military World Championships overseas. He was the Asian representative on jury of appeal down from the 4 continents at Military World Championships. His main achievements are he played 5 sessions of Ranji Trophy between 1987-88 and 1994-95, one amongst a handful of brothers who hold an international record of having scored hundreds together in the same innings of a first-class match. He captained the Indian Air Force cricket team. He represented the East Zone University's team in Vizzy. Welcome, Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh on our show. Wing Commander, you have heard what Mr. Rico, what Mr. Khanna, and what Mr. Lancy has mentioned. And all have mentioned one thing, that this pandemic has affected the sports very, very badly, because uh, all the sports are, even where they are indoor or outdoor, they have to be affected because no one wants to take a chance to play. But now there is a hope, because like IPL is taking place in Middle East, even the US Open is starting, even the in the badminton they have started the coaching in a very limited way, but still the fear is there. So we would like to know from you the COVID-19 impact on sports. Wing Commander Arjit Ghosh, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be on the same show as Rico, Mr. Khanna, Vijay. And we are today in the midst of a terrible situation worldwide. And as all of us, all of the guests before me have said, the entire world is affected, and we're all going through a crisis, the likes of which we've never seen in our lives before. So, sports is just one aspect of that crisis. And if I may pick up my uh, discussion with what Vijay said initially, if we talk about why we play sport, sport is basically a social contract, a social commitment that we have. We play sport because we enjoy being with our friends, because we enjoy, you know, being outdoors, being active, mixing with friends, competing against each other. And that's the prime reason why young children come to sports grounds. That's the prime reason why we all play sport. And out of that mass of young sportsmen who come to sports grounds as beginners, very few of them actually go up to become elite level players. In my opinion, probably just about 10% of that initial lot reaches the elite levels, or maybe even less. So I would like to start with that mass initially, because sport, what it does for all of us is that it keeps us physically and mentally healthy. And over the last 5 months, as Mr. Khanna said, Rico said, Vijay said, most of us have not stepped out of our houses. Most of us have just remained within the close confines of our bedroom, dining room, and the only exercise that we're getting at this point of time is probably walking from the bedroom to the dining room and back. So what that has done to our bodies and to our minds is that it has absolutely closed down the kind of people that we once were before this pandemic struck. And it's not just for me or for the ones who are there on the show. It's been like this for the entire world who've been affected by this. So young children who used to come to the sports grounds, enjoy themselves, have a bit of fun, run around, play, all of them have been locked up into the houses. And they've got nothing to do. How long can you watch TV? How long can you watch Netflix? How long can you play, online games? And sooner or later, it starts affecting your bodies, it starts affecting your mind. So that, to my mind, is probably the biggest fallout, that social fallout that the COVID-19 virus has had on human lives worldwide. And that is something that we are now slowly trying to get over, and especially in countries like England, where they've already started playing professional sport. But professional sport, as you said, the sports industry worldwide is as you mentioned, is $756 billion. But out of that, professional sports, elite level sports, only contributes for 23% of that chunk of $756 billion. The remaining, 77% of the sports industry is basically made up by people who play it recreationally, by the young players who come to various academies and play and enjoy the game just for the fun of it. So starting professional sports is just one aspect of it. If we start professional sports, we are only addressing that 23% of the global sports industry, which we are talking about. But we have to start sports at the grassroots level. Unless we get fans back to the grounds or to the stadiums to watch the matches that are going on, unless we get people to actually engage in playing sports again, sooner or later, hopefully should start as soon as possible, the global sports industry is not going to recover anytime soon from the recession that it has gone into at this point of time. Thousands of jobs have been lost, incomes have been impacted, livelihoods affected, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue because even with sports, professional sports coming back to the stadiums, like it has happened in England, we started with cricket, they've started motorsports, they've started horse racing. Even with all that is happening behind closed doors. It's all happening in empty stadiums. The fans are not involved. People are not really engaged with sports at this point of time. And they contribute the maximum amount to the global sports industry. So unless we get these people back into the grounds, unless we get people, young children playing sport again, it's going to not really, just help us by playing professional sport at the top of the ladder, like the test matches that are happening in England right now. So our aim as sports administrators, as governments, as the sporting community worldwide should be the first and foremost aim should be to get the sports, the young sportsmen and the sports fans back to the stadiums. And that, as Rico and Mr. Khanna and Vijay mentioned, will only happen once it becomes safe. And obviously, although we will need to live with it even after it becomes safe, we right now we are all very concerned about our children going out, about ourselves going out, and so therefore we are all counting very heavily on this vaccine that Rico mentioned, and all the other guests on the show mentioned, to get things back to a certain level of normalcy once again. And once that happens, once the fans are back to the stadiums, once the young children are playing sport again, I think the social impact and the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic would reduce greatly in terms of, in financial terms, especially. Because once you're playing sport, you would need to buy a t-shirt, you would need to buy a pair of shoes, you would need a tracksuit, you would need a cricket bat or a tennis racket or a badminton racket. So therefore, sports retail would come back into the business. Right now, even sport retail is out of the business completely. And then you would be going out, you would be going to the clubs, you would be paying your membership fees, you would be paying the academy fees, you would be buying your, your snacks after the practice session is over, your drinks and all that. And all that contributes money for people who are involved in that industry. All that pays their salaries. So this aspect of it, I think, is one of the most important that we need to look at and get it back to working once again as soon as possible. So that's my personal view on it at the moment. If I talk about the international, the elite level, cricket team games are obviously better off than individual sports, as Vijay and Rico mentioned, because of the difficulty of conducting tournaments in individual events where players come from all over the world, and there's so many players participating across so many different tournaments. You would have a separate mixed doubles tournament. You would have a separate singles tournament, a women's doubles tournament, and all of that. Whereas if you have, like, if I talk about cricket, which has been my sport, uh, if I talk about the matches which are going on in England now, what they've done is basically they've got both the teams into a biosecure venue where they've been sort of cocooned, uh, quarantined initially to make sure that nobody's got the virus. And then the entire lot, they've got these hotels on site. In the stadium, they've got hotels. So no one is going out anywhere. They just go from the stadium, they go from the ground to the hotel and back again to the ground for the next day's game. And the entire staff who are serving them, the hotel staff, the catering people, everyone, the umpires, the TV commentators, the media people, everyone, they are all quarantined within that biosecure bubble. No one is going out till the time an entire series is played, like the West Indies England series. So the entire West Indies team, the entire England team, the entire support staff, the entire catering, hospitality staff, everyone was within those two grounds where the matches were played. And these were the only two grounds in England which have got hotels on site where the cricketers could stay and the support staff could stay. And before they entered those venues, they had rounds of tests, and they had to clear those tests, and only then they were allowed to enter the venues. There's one player who had inadvertently gone out to meet his family, and he had to be dropped from the second test against the West Indies, and he was fined and for breaking the code of conduct. And he had put everyone at risk because obviously once he went out of the biosecure bubble, he put everyone at risk when he came back. So that's how international sports is being played at this point of time. It's the same with football, which started behind closed doors. It's the same with motorsport. Hopefully, when tennis returns, it would probably also be something similar. I'm sure Mr. Khanna would say that even the IPL is going to be played like this in Dubai and Sharjah and Abu Dhabi. So entire teams would be locked in, and they would not be going out anywhere. And it's only these two teams which are competing against each other. And therefore, no one is really putting anyone else at risk because everyone has been tested and everyone has been found to be free of the virus. So that's how international sports is taking its first baby steps to coming back to normal. I would say that, the very fact that these two series in England are being played at this moment, the West Indies series initially, and the West Indies, mind you, they actually traveled from one of the comparatively safer regions of the world in the Caribbean to one of the hotspots of the disease in England. And that was a very courageous decision that they took. And I would say that was more of a leap of faith, actually, in the British system of hospitality and safety protocols. So, but everything went off well, and this is the kind of cooperation amongst nations that has to happen at this point of time. And especially if I again talk about the cricket world, there are countries like India, like Australia, like England, who are comparatively much better off when it comes to financial, terms. But there are the weaker countries like the West Indies, like Sri Lanka, like Bangladesh, and for them to survive this crisis, for them to pay their players, their support staff, the people who actually work in their boards and all of that, it's going to be very, very difficult unless there is a cooperation amongst the international cricket community and the bigger boards like the BCCI or Cricket Australia or ECB, which is England Cricket Board, the English Cricket Board. They contribute some of their finances. Even these boards are facing huge losses in terms of billions of dollars, millions of dollars. And the BCCI, in fact, if the IPL doesn't go through, they stand to lose almost 4,000 crore rupees this year. And there is a chance, because most of the revenue in sports comes from TV coverage, from the broadcasting rights, which companies like, say, Star Sports or somebody would have bought for a huge amount of money. Now, if these boards are not able to provide them the content of telecast matches or broadcasting or whatever it is, there is a possibility that they may have to return a certain amount of money back to those companies for a sort of breach of contract. Although it is a force majeure, it is not something which is in anyone's control. But the fact is that if you paid 4,000 crore rupees for telecast rights or whatever it is, and you finally don't get the content, you are probably within your rights to ask for a refund of that money, or at least a part of that money. So BCCI, in fact, if the especially if the IPL matches don't go through at this point of time, they would have to return a certain amount of money to Star Sports. I mean, there is a possibility that might happen. And that's the same thing which is also happening in Australia. That's the same thing which is also happening in England. So even the stronger boards right now are on a weak wicket. They themselves have been suffering huge losses. There have been huge job opportunities which have been lost, their livelihoods which have been lost, because they're not in a position to sustain those kind of financial outgoes at this point of time. So, but having said that, I still firmly believe that if we are going to come out of this situation, everyone needs to come together, as Mr. Khanna said. We all need to cooperate. We all need to stand together in this situation, help each other out, and see the best that we can make out of it. And that's what I feel about this.
Okay, thank you very much, Wing Commander Ghosh, for giving the details. And according to Wing Commander Ghosh, there are two aspects, rather the two impacts, major impacts on the sports. One is the social, and there is the financial. And he says the social impact is because the youngsters who are coming to play the sports, it's a fun, it's a social context with each other. The friends, they are meeting the friends, and it is good for the health. Because according to him, how much time a child can be inside the house just watching the TV or Netflix, etc. The second aspect, which is very important, is the financial aspect. And according to him, out of $756 billion, only 23% is the professional charges which are coming from the professional games. But 67% are when the games are taking place, when the other are contributing, like those spectators who are going there, the television's rights are there, many things. And he says if it will not be there, then what is going to happen the future. He has also given the details about what is happening in England, how they are organizing the match, because there are two stadiums which have the inbuilt hotels inside the stadium. And according to him, all the teams, whether West Indies or England, they have been quarantined in that hotel. All the supporting staffs are also in that, and they are not supposed to go out. And that's in that they are playing. But whether it will be successful for the broadcaster or not, that we have to see. He has also mentioned about the IPL. He says the IPL is taking place, but we have to see whether the people will like it without the proper arrangements or the proper spectators, rather not the arrangement, spectators, and the broadcaster will get their revenue because they have paid heavily to the IPL governing body or the IPL institute. And once they will not get the full contents, proper contents, then it might be the BCCI will also face heavy losses. And according to him, the three boards which are cash rich, BCCI on the Cricket Australia and the England board. But what about those boards like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and others which are financially weak? What is going to happen to their players? What is going to happen to the support staff? So he says the time is bad for everyone. And he also hopes that we should come together, all nations should sit together, try to find out the solution and see to it that we should start as early as possible, but keeping the safety in mind. And that's then only we will be able to start the sports in full sense. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Enrico Peperno. Mr. Peperno, in Germany, they used fan cutouts by charging 19 euros. Do you think in the football match, do you think this will work in other sports also during COVID time?
Well, it may work in Europe, but I can't see that working in India. I don't think any of our fans are going to be willing to pay 19 euros to have a cutout of theirs put in the ground. Definitely not in tennis, that's for sure. It may be a possibility, only a possibility in cricket. But It is a good idea because what it does is it gives the players some sort of feel that there's somebody in the ground, and they use the sounds of the spectators. I've been watching a few soccer games on my television, and I've been seeing that they've been trying to make make the same sort of atmosphere that was there in the past, to give the players something to, to feel a sort of normal while they're on the pitch. I don't think it'll work in India. I can only speak for India. I don't think it'll work in India, but I think it was a good novel idea, just something different. You see, at the end of the day, Mr. Goel, you've got to try something different, and it's a new normal, and this new normal is going to have a lot of pros and cons involved with it. So, whatever you try, if it works, good for the sport. If it doesn't work, they need to think of maybe plan B. So I think from the Indian perspective, I don't think that makes much sense. But I guess in Europe and people, who follow clubs, and they follow clubs with such intensity, like their face or their name coming on a seat. I think that is something that has been going generation wise, and there's such big followings in these clubs.
Thank you, Mr. Rico, for giving your answer. And according to you, that is not possible in India. It will not be that feasible and practical because there is a fan following in Europe, and that's why it is quite successful there, and people like that. But in India, according to you, it's not going to be successful. Now, my question is to Mr. Khanna. Mr. Khanna, in India, cricket is most followed games. Do you think it is because of media? There earlier, if you know well, uh, that hockey was our national game, and we cannot forget the wizard of hockey, late Dhyan Chand, Major Dhyan Chand, who has won so many Olympic medals for us, and we used to rule. But after the independence, gradually, the hockey has taken a back seat, and now the cricket is in the forefront. So, do you think it is because of the media, or really the public interest is more? Although both the games, if you compare the hockey as well as the cricket, both are played by in not a single game player like badminton or the tennis. So it's a and now because of the T20, we say the short term of the cricket. Similarly, the hockey is a short duration, but still the interest is more in cricket. Is it due to media, or any other reason? Mr. Surendra Khanna, please. Mr. Khanna, can you hear me? Mr. Khanna, can you hear me? I think some. Yeah,
Yes, Mr. Lal.
yeah.
यार इसमें वॉल्यूम कैसे चला गया ये कम हो गया
Mr. I think Mr. Khanna is not. Mr. Khanna, can you hear me? Okay, we will come back to Mr. Khanna once we will be able to connect with him properly. I will go to Mr. Lancy. Mr. Lancy, we are all talking about the financial part in the sports. As you said that this industry, we are nowadays suffering losses because everything is closed down. But you might have seen abroad, especially in UK, they are earning money even when the matches are not played. Whether it's a Lord Stadium, whether it's a United Manchester, anywhere, they are they made their stadium as a tourist place. They are charging 20 pounds per person just to give a tour of the Lords. They will charge similar or the more for the United Manchester Stadium, or many more, almost all the stadiums. Don't you think in India, because now we never expected such type of pandemic will come, but now we have to be ready even for future also. Anytime anything can come, and every time just we will be sitting idle and we say now we are financially tight. Why not we also make the all other sports make themselves cash rich? Because like badminton, you have so much legacy in our country. We have so many top players here, and if we will make the museum like in Lords, when I went there personally, I've seen that I have taken the tour. I found that it is such an amazing thing to see even our Indian players photographs and jerseys, etc. Even they allowed us to go to the same balcony where our famous Mr. Saurav Ganguly has put that jersey and make it round in one of the match when we won. So these types of things, can't you think in India, if we will start, we have so many stadiums and so many memories of all international players coming there. What is your take on that, Mr. Lancy, please?
Well, I think surely, that is a great idea. And I think the word that you used, legacy, I think that is very critical. I think, there have to be personalities, there have to be stories, so something which a fan or a player or a sport lover needs to be associated with, right? And I think it takes time. If you ask me about badminton particularly, 1980 Prakasa won All England, so it took 20 more years to get Gopi Chand to win All England. Then 2010, Saina won the Commonwealth. Then the Olympic bronze medal, Sindhu. So today, at least in badminton, the superstars are coming up. And I think from a child point of view, they are role models. And people would want to know what role models do, what do they train. I mean, maybe what did like I had the fortune of seeing Saina train in Bangalore in our academy. And it was just a sheer delight to see her train 7 8 hours a day. I mean, I really didn't know that a human being could put so much effort. I mean, that was the kind of effort Saina used to do. So these are all stories, these are all incidents, and I think it's a very good idea. Now it needs to be done. I understand that somebody, either the association, the government, that we have to something like Chepak, the tight test match. I mean, everyone, I remember as a kid watching that. So there could be things. I mean, I'm a member of that club, so it's a good legacy. So I'm sure a lot of this can be done. You're right in saying that this pandemic might get over. What if in the next 1 year, God forbid, but one more comes, and then again, although we have our learnings, of this pandemic, it shouldn't be that we again go through the same cycle again. So I think a lot of thought has to be put in, definitely on what could be done. Like Rico said, some things can work in India, some things cannot work. The demography is different. The profile of our mindset itself is different. But I think all ideas should be welcome, should be tried, and surely that will only benefit the sport. So I think all the stakeholders should get together and plan out on all this. Surely.
Thank you, Mr. Lancy, for giving a reply. According to him, it's a good idea if we will be able to do such type of thing, because in badminton, especially when now the legacy has started because of Mr. Prakash Padukane, then Saina Nehwal, Sindhu, and Gopi Chand, and all top players, international players who have uh, bring the laurels to India. So definitely they are the role models for the youngsters. Definitely they would like to come, and once this type of thing can started in India, it can generate funds definitely, and it will be good, because nobody knows what is going to happen the next year or any time such type of thing can come. We should be ready for this. Mr. Khanna, can you
Yeah, I
listen to
can
me?
hear you now.
You can hear me. Very good. My
Yeah.
question to you is, Mr. Khanna, you know very well that earlier hockey was the national player, and still it is a national game. But and we have lost the interest earlier. Our great wizard, hockey wizard, uh, Major Dhyan Chand, who brought the laurels to India, so many Olympic medals. Even at one time, although I don't know whether it is true or not, but it is in media that even the Hitler wanted that only Dhyan Chand can be given to them, and but he refused because he is a proud Indian. But gradually, hockey has vanished. Now cricket has taken over from every angle. If you see the financially, the visibility, everything. And although the cricket and hockey, because cricket was earlier you were paying for 5 days, rather 6 days. One day was used to be the rest day. But now, because of the T20, it's a short form. Hockey is in the almost the same thing, and there lots of players are playing hockey similarly in cricket. Then why? What is the reason? Do you think it is because of the media hype that the cricket has become more popular and overtaken all the sports, and especially the hockey in India? Mr. Surendra Khanna, please.
Well, sir, thank you very much. Sorry for losing the volume in between. A few phone calls came and I lost the volume. And the reason cricket has come to the top, people love winners. I would say as a youngster, when I was playing hockey, badminton, table tennis, athletic, basketball, all games, I never played cricket. But when Ajit Vodeka's team won in England, then he helped India, he led India to victory in West Indies. The kind of impact it had on me as a youngster and many youngsters, or for that matter, Vijay Amritraj, Anand Amritraj, before that, Senior Krishnan, and Jaydev Mukherjee doing well in Wimbledon, reaching the quarterfinals, or something like that. We all love winners. And India won the World Cup. We had a young Haryana Hurricane Kapil Dev on the scene. The balcony you're talking about, Ganguly, came 40 years later. It is Kapil Dev who won the World Cup there, beating the mighty West Indies, and he held that World Cup. And the cricket scenario changed in the country. Let me tell you, we are so lucky that Maharajas played this game because Britishers, when they came to India, they taught us. And they used to play in the elite company of Maharajas. So very few commoners used to play. If we backtrack the history of cricket. And in international cricket, if you see, there are 10 to 12 countries who play actively, and two or three are top class teams. The rest are just participant, I would say, but still, cricket is number one game. The credit goes to A, the administrators, how they have managed the game, managed the spectators, managed the media, the finances. End of the day, it all comes to the economics of the game. Now, from 5 days and a 6-day rest in test matches, then it came to one-day cricket, then it came to colored clothing, night cricket, Gary Packer, the maverick, millionaire from Australia, who didn't get the TV rights when he won the bid for that for his Channel 9, and Australian board gave it to Australian Broadcasting Company. He started his circus, started paying more money, and when he had the night cricket with colored clothing and white ball, everyone said this is pajama cricket. But we are today witnessing the entire world playing pajama cricket. So from one day, night cricket, white ball, we have come to T20. It is like when we, people of our generation, we still enjoy the Mughlai food. But the generation of today, they like the pizza and the burgers. So it's the same about sports. They don't like to watch it for 5 days and see the match ending in a draw. They go for T20 like they're going for a movie, or they are going to the theater to watch a play. So here is IPL or T20 providing that thrill to them in 3 hours for 1,000 rupees. They go to the ground, they participate. But due to pandemic, they may not be at the ground, but they'll be watching on the television. The thrill is on the ground. So I give credit to the youngsters uh, who participate in large numbers, but during pandemic, they are not able to come out. Youngsters make their heroes like Kapil Dev, Gavaskar, Bedi, Prasanna, Dhoni, Tendulkar, Ganguly, Sehwag. In cricket, I'm talking about. In hockey, when I started playing cricket, I had Ajit Pal Singh. I had Ashok Dhyanchand, who is a very dear friend, like brother to me. His father won 3 gold medals, and I was speaking to him the other day. He said, "I didn't had a gold. I won a silver. I won a bronze in Olympics. When I won the World Cup gold, then I went to my dad to show that medal. He said, ठीक है बेटा, मैंने 3 जीते हैं बेटा. उस समय जीते हैं जब हिंदुस्तान आजाद नहीं था. When we were not independent, नंगे पांव खेलते थे, ट्रैवल करते थे, मालूम नहीं होता था. We didn't know whether we would get to travel. शिप में जाते थे, ट्रेनिंग नहीं होती थी, और रात को प्रैक्टिस करते थे, लाइट नहीं होती थी. सुबह जो है रोजी रोटी कमानी होती थी for the family. They had to earn the bread for the family. And in the light of the lamp, the street light, he used to practice. So things were very difficult. But the heroes which the sports give, like at one point of time, basketball in America came to zero. They started sending the grades to all the schools. They started distributing T-shirts with the legends' photographs and got the youngsters interested in basketball, and see where American basketball is today, NBA. So I think every sport, administrators in the last 20, 30 years, what I am observing, they are only coming to make money, unfortunately. I'm very sorry to say, but I have been very blunt all through my life, speaking the truth. I hope they have the passion of the administrators when I started playing, who were spending money from their pocket and making cricket stay alive. People like Chinnaswamy, people like M.A. Brown, people like Chidambaram, people like Mac, people like many names, Art Mehra in Delhi, Latusha. From where they brought money? They gave us cricket. Cricket was kept alive. Dalmia, Bindra, they came later. Salve Saab, Wankhede Saab, they all came later. They kept the sport alive of cricket. And mind you, only 10, 12 countries play, and we are world champions. In hockey, in tennis, I think 120, 130, 140 countries play. Badminton, table tennis, large number of countries play. So real world champion, they are. I think they need to get in wrestling. Don't forget, in shooting, Bindra, he gave us the gold, Rathore the silver. They need to be complemented. Then Saina Nehwal, and now in table tennis. My friend Manjeet Dua, first Indian to beat the world champion of China in China. Can you imagine what impact he created? He is my college mate, my friend. We still meet and discuss. It is very important for legends to come together, the governments to invite all the stakeholders who have the experience, expertise to get their views, and we need to learn how to cope up with this pandemic and also get on to sports. We have to learn to live with it, find ways to play with it, find ways to govern it, and strict adherence to, once again, I will say, social distancing, sanitizer, face mask. We have to learn to live with it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khanna, because your voice is cracking. So, but what reply you have given in detail, this is very eye opener, because what you say is that uh, everybody wants to follow the hero, and the hero is the winner. And he says that earlier, yes, hockey was we were winning the gold medals, but when Ajit Wadekar started playing and he has won the, he has given he's giving his own his own experience, and he says that when he won the matches, he started playing, and then others have started also following, and now after that the Kapil Dev and so on, so on, so on. But what he says is it all depends on the administration, and he has also mentioned how Major Dhyan Chand, when he won the medal, if, on what difficulties they used to play barefoot. They used to they have no practicing ground. They were practicing in the lamp, the street lights, and they were also not provided proper dress. They were traveling in ship. So in that time when they were winning, it was really really something. But now he says this is the right time when the government should call all the legends, all the top stakeholders, all the top players who has contributed immensely in different games, and chalk up a plan about the pandemic as well as the sports altogether. He says the administrator has to be a passionate for the game, not for earning money only for the game. Not for the personal, but for the even for the association or for the committee. It should be, but he has to have a passion for the game. Then only the game can develop. And he says now so many good players in other fields like badminton, tennis, even table tennis, and others. So why not everyone should come forward? Government should invite them and see to it how the sports can take new height. Thank you, Mr. Khanna, for giving your frank opinion. And he says that I always talk bluntly and very frank. So yes, you are very frank, and you should be. After all, you are such a legend for all of us. Now, I would like to go to our next guest, Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh. Mr. Ghosh, do you think government should come out with new sports policy in lines of new education policy? I will just give you a background. Like a new education policy, there is no burden on the student initially. And even in the graduation for in the last 4 years, there is a multiple entry, multiple exit. Now, what has happened and what is the past experience? And I think one of the panelists has mentioned that study, when you are studying, how you have to play. Now, a sports person who has been identified that he's a very good sports person, but if he is not, his parents wants that he should do at least 10th or 12th or graduation or this thing, otherwise he will not be there in the so fit for the society. But with the new education policy, there is a very much relaxability. When we have that type of relaxability, then sports quota is there in industries like Mr. Khanna mentioned that he was in the steel authority, and so many our sports persons have got even in the sports quota. Why not in the education? We should have this type of thing, that if a person who is playing sports, he need not or she need not to give the exams, given the degree, mentioning that it's a sports, but at least she or he will get that, they should get the degree, because a sports person who is dedicated, as Mr. Lancy mentioned, that Saina Nehwal is playing for 8 hours a day. Now imagine 8 hours playing, then going home, it means almost 10 hours, 11 hours gone in 24 hours. Then where's the time to study? What is your opinion? Because now this government has come out with a very, very good new education policy. Yesterday my program was on this new education policies. Everyone, all the vice chancellors were there, and they appreciated the new education policies because of the flexibility, because of the less burden to the student, no competitions. But if the same type of new sports policy will come, like Mr. Khanna has mentioned, why not stakeholders, like that is the legends, the players who have played, who has bring laurels to our country, if they will suggest, like a committee in the has suggested in the education, why not sports? What are your views? Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh, please.
Absolutely. We definitely need a sports policy which includes everyone. That's my first point on this. Because first of all, you need to get everyone to play sport because of the social benefits which I mentioned earlier, and the physical, the health benefits, and the mental aspects and everything. If you play sport when you're young, you automatically become more confident of yourself as a human being, and that confidence shows in whatever you do in life, whether it is in studies, or becoming CEOs of companies, or wherever else you go in life. The sports that you played when you were young, those that gives you those benefits, those values, that instills those values in your character, which stay with you lifelong. Values like, learning to lose, learning to win, being gracious in victory, and not despondent in defeat. Because sports is a great leveler. If I give you the example of this recently concluded Pakistan test, the Pakistan opener who scored a wonderful 150 in the first innings, he fell in the first over of the second innings for a duck. So it's a great leveler. One day you're right up there, you scored 150, everyone has got you on their shoulders and everything, carrying you off the ground. And the second day you're out first ball. So that teaches you the value of humility in even when you're when you're successful. And it also teaches you to come back from failures, which is so important, because if this lesson is learned by all of us at a young age, I think we won't have the kind of social problems that we have. We won't have these suicides and all these other, things which happen in society. Because first and foremost, sports teaches you mental strength, other than the physical strength and the positivity which people imbibe out of sports. The biggest thing that sports teaches is mental strength. So therefore, it is very, very important that every child in our country plays sport at the beginning of their lives. And when they come to school, when they join school in KG or class 1 or nursery or whatever it is, sports should be mandatory for the first 5, 6, 7, 8 years of their lives. So that thereafter they can make a choice whether they want to play it or they don't want to play it, they want to concentrate on something else. But those 8 years, the grounding that they would have received from the sports education that they received in those early years of their lives, that is going to help them, that is going to stand them in good street throughout their lives. So the sports policy that you're talking about, even the education policy that you're talking about, the first thing that they should probably incorporate into their policy is also that sports becomes mandatory and compulsory right from the uh, first time when a young child comes to school. So that's the most important thing. And thereafter, as you said, as I said, if we choose to play it professionally, as I'd mentioned earlier, only about maybe 10% of the players who start playing sport actually go on to become elite level players, or probably the percentage might even be lesser than that, maybe 7%, maybe 6%. So what happens to the remaining 90% who enjoy playing sport, who are good at it? They also need to be encouraged. They also, I mean, not everyone is going to play for India. Not everyone is going to become a world champion. But the people who played sport, they, like, if I talk about, you know, you mentioned about Major Dhyan Chand. Now, the thing is that if you're playing sport, you are not making enough money to make a living out of just playing sport. You have to have a parallel career. You have to have a job in most cases, unless you're a professional player, cricketer playing for India, or nowadays in some other sports as well. You just can't sustain a life by just playing sport, or you just can't sustain a family by playing sport. So you have to have an alternate career. So therefore, if there is a policy which gives benefits to people who play sport at a decent level, that it can be a graded benefit. It can be a certain kind of benefit for someone who just plays it recreationally. There might be, you might be able to give him uh, attendance in schools or colleges, or you might be able to give him 5 marks extra, or whatever it is, for someone who's doing slightly better than that, who's representing the school or the college or the university or whatever it is. Those kind of graded benefits need to be built into the system, so that you encourage people to play sport. You encourage people to remain connected with sport. And like all of us, you see, all of us, we are now into the probably the second half of our lives, but we are still so passionate about our sport. So once you get connected with sport at an early age, it stays with you for the rest of your life. So definitely a sports policy is required. Definitely these graded benefits need to be introduced at different levels. And definitely we need to encourage children. Most importantly, we need to encourage everyone to play sport at an early age. That's my take on that.
We want to encourage everyone to play sports, says Commander Ajith Ghosh. And he has very categorically says, yes, India requires a new sports policy where all the stakeholders, especially the legends who have contributed in the different sports, should be taken care. Their opinion should be taken, and with that, we should also try to give the the child from the very beginning, that make it compulsory that they should play sports at least for 8 years. So once they will be in that standard, then they can choose if they are playing good, and if they are interested, they can go for the sports, or if they don't want, they can go for the other field, whichever they like. But he also mentioned that it is very difficult for a sports person to sustain their life, because according to him, only 6-7% sports person out of 100 are getting reach to the or to the league level. Now it is, he says that they can earn on only the professional cricketers, like top players who are playing in IPL, etc., or in some other fields like in badminton or tennis. Apart from that, the sports person today is not getting enough money to sustain themselves even. So that also government should consider how to provide them that the jobs or something, or even in the college schools, the marks or some degrees, so that they can live happily, because they have chosen the sports. And according to him, sport is such a thing which not only give you the happiness, but it's a very, very good for your health also. Thank you, Wing Commander, for giving your views. Now, in the last round, Mr. Enrico Peperno, what are your suggestions to the government and advice to public?
Well, let's start with the public first.
Yes.
I would advise them first, like Mr. Khanna said earlier, through this pandemic, there are 3 or 4 things that we all need to do to stay safe. One is we learn now must learn to come into the public domain wearing a mask. You must remember social distancing is a very, very important aspect of being safe. 6 feet away from the nearest human being. Washing your hands regularly. That is something that is become a huge sort of contributor to being safe at this present moment. So these three or four things I feel are very important for the public. And I'll keep this short because at the end of the day, for the government, my best advice would be you need to come out and start supporting the sports people in whatever way possible right now. Number one is what I mean is I think most sports people who represent this country should be covered by a health policy. There's no health policy for the sporting fraternity of our country. And I do hope that this pandemic will be a wake-up call for the government to bring out a health policy that if you represent your country or you represent at a certain level, you qualify for some health benefits. Because this pandemic has definitely shown that if you don't have any sort of support, you don't have a health program, you don't have something that insurance to cover you, you can actually come out a big loser. I've heard of lakhs and lakhs of rupees being spent on COVID patients in various hospitals in our country. So I think the most important thing that comes with this pandemic is a health insurance that needs to be given to all sportsmen who have represented the country at a level, at whatever level they choose to pick, and that should go across every single sport. Today, a sportsman in kabaddi or in table tennis or in tennis, if he faces a serious health issue, he should not have to worry about it. His family should not have to worry about it. And I think that is a very, very important part. That is probably the number one advice I would give the government. The second advice I would give the government is very simple. End of the day, all the academies, Vijay mentioned it earlier, all the coaches, the support staff, the stringers, the people connected with the academies, they're not earning a single rupee right now. If there's any sort of policy where they can come up with some sort of reimbursement of wages lost, some sort of incentive to these sort of people. Because end of the day, there are so many, especially in urban and semi-urban parts of India, there are so many of these coaches who are depending, who live on paycheck to paycheck. They depend on a paycheck every single month to keep themselves alive. And it's been 5 months now without earning a single rupee. So my request is to please look at that sector and give that sector some relief. So these are my two important takes from this pandemic. I hope the government is listening. And like I said, the health insurance is a must. And I think that is something that they really need to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Peperno, for giving your advice and suggestions. And according to you, your advice to public is safety, follow all the guidelines which government has given. But your suggestions to the government are very, very important. First suggestion is about the health insurance to all those players who have either represented the country or up to they have represented up to certain level. They should be provided the health insurance. So such type of pandemic, otherwise also they should not face any problems when there is a element of illness or sickness in them for them. And secondly, as secondly, you have mentioned about the some financial help, and in which it is like that, you require that for the sports person, financial stimulus scheme should come, some financial package should come. Like the government has come out with the 20 lakhs crores stimulus package for the 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 yes. So when the government has come out with the financial package or stimulus for the MSMEs and the rural place or the migrants or the farmers, uh, even for the street vendors, they should also consider for the financial stimulus for the sports person, the coaches, the players, all those, the supporting staff who are depending on the day-to-day payback or whatsoever the payment they are getting, so that their livelihood should not be hampered. Thank you, Mr. Peperno, for giving your frank suggestion and advice. Mr. Khanna, your suggestion to the government and advice to public.
I think we are too small to advise the government. Jaan hai to jahan hai. We need to take care of our health ourselves. the current scenario, what we have been witnessing for the last so many years, we expect too much from the governments. I think we need to do things on our own, and our federations, like our BCCI, they have a health policy. Now they are planning to have it every year, insure every cricketer, even the ex-cricketers. They were giving us 5 lakh rupees one time, but we have, by the blessings of Honorable Supreme Court, the Indian Cricketers Association, we have three representatives in BCCI now. Like I'm giving you an example of my cricket board. Anshuman Gaikwad and Shanta Rangaswamy, they are in the seven-member Apex Council, which runs the BCCI now, which governs it. I am on the IPL governing council from Indian Cricketers Association, representing all our cricketers and women, young and old, and ex-cricketers. So we have proposed to have, we have spoken to our treasurer, Swami, and a couple of more guys. We are eight in all, and we are in touch with the insurance, health insurance companies, and coming to very close to clinching a deal along with the BCCI that every player, present and ex, is insured for minimum 5 lakhs, and it can, depending on the bargain, the deal we strike with the insurance company, uh, every year, every cricketer, men and women, present and old, will be insured. So that way, I think other sports also, the senior in those sports, they should not only think about themselves and about their fellow sportsmen, because in our era, there was no money. If I tell you example, when I was playing Ranji Trophy, I scored 100 in each innings in Bangalore against Karnataka in 77, 78. I got 50 rupees for the match. Can you imagine? Scoring 100 in each innings and wicket keeping in both the innings, helping Delhi to win the Ranji Trophy, and compare it with the present generation cricketer who gets 1.5 lakh to play Ranji Trophy, who gets minimum 1, 2, 3 crores. If he's, if I was playing today, let me put it, all the 8 franchise would have been after me. The kind of batting I used to do in those days, when the style was to spend the whole day at the crease, I used to come and blast the bowlers from the first ball for fours and sixes. So I was probably ahead of the time, like Gorbachev was in Russia. He was ahead of the time. And then जिसने चमड़े के सिक्के चलाए थे, वो अपने जो Indian history में. So certain times you miss out on that. There are no regrets. So we can't advise them, and we can't expect government to do everything. Let us be honest that we do something on our own. It is our life. We can't keep begging to the government for that. I'm sorry, our political system, the political class is not the same what it used to be in the 60s and 70s. I'm very sorry to say that. So I don't go to them. I would rather do it myself.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Khanna, for giving the frank opinion. And according to him, uh, we should not ask everything from the government. We should do ourselves. And he has given his example. He says that the federation, the cricket BCCI and the IPL board, they have now, because the Supreme Court, as per the Supreme Court judgment of the order, they are, 3 players are there on the governing boards, and Mr. Khanna is also on the IPL governing board, and the two are on the BCCI representing this all this players association, which X or the present. And he says that the players are going to get 5 lakhs minimum insurance coverage, whether the present or past. So similarly, other association should also do the same thing. The senior player should feel, should know that they are not only for themselves, they have to think for the those who cannot afford, and the past players also. So that is what he says, and he has given the example that today there is lots of money, but when he used to play in 1977 in Ranji Trophy in one of the match, when the Delhi versus Karnataka at Bangalore, he won and he scored centuries in both the innings. but he got only 50 rupees, while the today any playing is Ranji Trophy, one can fetch 1.5 lakhs. And he has mentioned that how he has changed the orthodox way of playing, that he used to blast all the balls from the go. But yes, we all know, we have seen you playing, so we are fan of yours, Mr. Khanna. Don't think that you are ahead of the time. We always think you are still there. You are the person who has shown the light to Sehwag and many who has taken the same thing to blast. They were not. So you are the torch bearer. You are the first to change those types of playing condition. So we are proud of you, Mr. Khanna. Thank you very much for giving your frank views. Now my next this guest, Mr. Lancy. Mr. Lancy, your suggestion, if any, to the government and advice to public.
Well, mostly covered by Surinder sir and Rico, but just one to the public is firstly in the current conditions, whatever it doesn't mean that if you're not coming, especially say in our case badminton, you have to still take care of your health. I mean, one thing this illness has shown is the importance of diet or exercise, immunity, so I mean, these are long-term things which we need to look to, and which sport is surely. So one is in the current situation, everyone should do what they can. It could just mean going up the stairs, coming down, a small round near a building. So basic things, that is one. Second is today, at least like what I said in our stadium in Bangalore, it is almost like a bubble. What Ajith sir said, that most of our students, don't come in public transport. They come in their own vehicles. They come, in a stadium where it is monitored. The only 20 people can come. The 21st person also has to take permission. Anyone coming from outside state has to be quarantined. So in these conditions, there is a chance of people to play. Now, it is a sensitive issue. I mean, nobody can force a parent to send the student, but at the same time, we cannot wait for 6 to 8 months more, right? So I think it is every parent to decide, to talk to the coaches, to responsible people, to the administration. I don't think we should wait for 6 8 months. Not that we should start playing today, but I think slowly, we should take all, like what Rico exactly said. All there are precautions to be taken. If we do all of that, we don't expose ourselves, to large crowds. I think there is a possibility of us starting to play. Again, as I said, sensitive topic. Parents need to decide. And of course, in the long run, once we are out of all this, definitely sport should be a very integral part of everybody, not just badminton, could be any sport. So that is, I think, more from the public point of view. From the government side, as I said in my opening statement, uh, the professional players are 10%. The 90% are catered to by coaches, markers. A lot of this unorganized sector whose work absolutely goes unnoticed, and players come to a certain level, and then they come into the limelight. And then say, I mean, more illustrious coaches like us come over. But since we run an academy, we know the efforts being taken to teach a 6-year-old, a 8-year-old. In fact, maybe we are not capable of teaching that also, because you have to really go down, teach the basics. So I think definitely the government, the associations, they have to do their part. It could be like directly the amount needs to go to the the players or the coaches bank account or something like that. Maybe if all 100 coaches can't be done, at least 50 coaches. There can be a way of involving people like us, so that it goes to the needy and not even a rupee is embezzled, in the bargain. So there are ways to be done. We can't depend only on the government. We need to do from our own side too. So this is what I think can be done.
Thank you, Mr. Lancy, for giving the suggestion and advice. I'm sure the government will take your suggestion seriously, because it's a very good thing with what you say, that even the direct bank transfer for those who cannot afford and who are doing so much work. Because one side we always keep this our players as a hero, so we must see to it that today is the tough time. We must also think about them. Now, my last guest is Mr. Ghosh, Wing Commander Ghosh. Your suggestions to government, if any, and advice to public.
Yeah, I think it's been basically covered by all the guests before me. I would go along with whatever has been said to a large extent. And I think it has to be a combination from all sides at this time, which is, as everyone mentioned, it's an unprecedented crisis that has overtaken sport and all of us. in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like this. Uh, so everyone, as I mentioned earlier, everyone has to come together in this hour of crisis, whether it is the public, whether it is the government, whether it is the associations themselves. They all have to pitch in, because the sheer number of people who have been affected by this pandemic is something which probably a single body or an individual organization cannot, look after by themselves. So everyone has to pitch in. The government has to have a policy. Rico mentioned a health policy for everyone. Now, Mr. Khanna talked about the policy which the BCCI has about providing health cover to players. Uh, so obviously, that is one thing which would be the first, you know, initiative from all of us to take care of our health. As Vijay mentioned, this crisis has proved to us that we need to look after our health, and that is something which the public needs to do, the government needs to do, the organization, the BCCI or any other sports body, the All India Tennis Association, they need to support that initiative. So that is something which would be first and foremost, in my opinion. And obviously, for the job losses, for the wage cuts, for the loss of livelihoods, again, all of us need to step in. The government has to set up a system where, as Vijay mentioned, maybe there could be bank transfers directly into accounts. The associations, as Mr. Khanna mentioned, need to take care of their own players. The international bodies, the International Cricket Council or the Association of Tennis Professionals or whatever, those bodies need to contribute, because they are all cash rich bodies. They've over the years they've built up their finances through the sport, and this is a time when they need to give back to the players. They need to give back to the people who support their sport, if the sport is to survive. If that is not going to happen, the sport itself will not survive. So those bodies, like I know for a fact that the FIFA is giving a chunk of money to each member association, to each country. Similarly, the Wimbledon committee, they actually paid, even though the tournament was cancelled, they actually paid the players. It may not be the exact amount of prize money which they would have otherwise won, but there was a very substantial payment which was made to all players who would have participated in that championship, including the wheelchair players. So that's the kind of commitment which also needs to come from the international bodies which govern our sports. So it has to be a combination. It has to be the government. It has to be the country's sports body, the individuals themselves, and the international sports bodies as well. Only then we can survive this.
Thank you, Wing Commander Ghosh, for giving this suggestion or the advice or the peace of mind that everyone should come together. Yes. So today you have seen that how the sports person, the sports in India is affected by the COVID-19. We make them heroes, and today they are in a desperate conditions. Many of them, not all, but many of them. Don't you think it's the civil society's responsibility to take care of them? Even the government, of course, but we all are also responsible. We used to go to the stadiums to play, see the matches. We used to run after them to take the autographs. We used to they salute them whenever they bring any victory for India. So today, when they are in bad shape, I think it's the responsibility of all the stakeholders, whether it's a government, whether it's a central government, state government, or the civil society, to come forward and see to it that they should not be treated like this. They should also, after all, human being. They have done so much for our country. They bought our country's name and put our country's flag very, very high. So today you have seen this program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. Please keep watching our program. That tomorrow, the media conference with Lal Goel is COVID-19 impact on Indian economy. And we have a very, very early panel tomorrow. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, one-man expert commission on labor, Government of India. We have Mr. D.K. Mittal, IAS, former Financial Service Secretary, Government of India. We have Mr. Ramnath Pradeep, former Chairman, Corporation Bank of India. Then we have Dr. S.K. Patnaik, IRAS, former Managing Director, Indian Railways Finance Corporation. So please tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. and watch media conference with Lal Goel. Thank you very much, all my esteemed guests, Mr. Enrico Peperno, Mr. Vijay Lancy, Mr. Surendra Khanna, Mr. Ajith, Wing Commander Ajith Ghosh, for joining with us, and all the viewers who have seen today and who have heard what these experts, these champions have to say. And I am sure that all of you have enriched by the values, by the views which they have expressed. And I am sure that we will do something for them. Thank you very much for watching our show.